And just like that, they buy it. They eat it up. You pander to them. You thank them. I mean, really, people, I thought you were a little bit smarter than that. I mean, it's just so easy to say the name of the city. You cheer.
Hey, Stephanie,
you cheer. I mean, just come on.
Welcome to the A Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the A Show, episode 126. We are, for some people, on day 7, some people day 2, some people day 1 of social distancing. A lot has changed in 7 days since the last time we came to you guys. We were literally able to all go outside 7 days ago. And now we are from the luxury of our own homes, as normal for me and my co-host Meelz.
Big normal.
Super normal for us, but not very normal for a lot of people. The world is a scarier place.
Wow, come on. You can't do this on the intro. Hey, what's up?
It's a scarier place. This is a scarier place.
The Kings of Pro Wrestling Podcast.
There's no water.
We are here, fully live, fully here to continue to bring you guys content on a weekly basis because we know you guys may be trapped in your houses as we are trapped in our houses and want to continue to entertain you guys instead of bringing you the dismal outlook of what life is, that what J5 is doing on the beginning of this podcast. Oh my God. Sir.
Whatever.
I mean, I you know what? I give it to him because he's on day, 8? Day 9 of the social distancing experiment of our lives. So, sir, I'd like to know, what have you been watching? What have you already destroyed in terms of binging? What have you been doing for the past week and so?
I made a dent I made a huge dent in My Hero Academia. So with season 3, I had to take a little break from it. Lest I run through the whole series.
You're going to do it anyway, so it doesn't matter. I don't even know why you're taking a break.
Well, I started watching 60 Days In. I think with like we'll talk about this on the show, like with the kind of like the first or second gearing of wrestling content. Now it's kind of like I gotta admit I'm kind of lost. Like it's like, yeah, we get these shows, but like I'm not gonna lie, like they feel. They're interesting, like escape, but they're also very, like, to me, like super non-essential and very small, like very small, and the gravity of everything that's going on around us right now. Like I'm trying to escape as much as possible right now. So I'm watching 60 Days In, My Hero, Ronin Warriors on Amazon Prime, going back watching movies, very deep in planning for like late fee stuff with me and Pat, and it's. If you have any suggestions on what else to watch, I'm thinking about going back and watching The Sopranos.
Wow,
that's how deep it is.
I mean, so we're here. I mean, obviously, Coronamania has run wild all over the entire world. I wouldn't even say United States; I'll say the world, which has left a lot of people pretty much, quarantined. Whether it's self-quarantine, whether it's quarantine by the actual virus itself, whether it's quarantine by the fact that, you shouldn't go to work, and the entire government had said, hey, also we're closing everything else down, so don't you even think of going outside. The entire world, we're just doing the best that we can at this point. I'm saying this on day 2. He's saying this on day 8. Obviously, we have completely different sort of perspectives on this because I'm still kind of fresh here. I went out earlier today, risk it for whatever, a VPN, risk it all. So I'm doing okay. I just had some lunch. So we're just doing fine in general. What I've been doing, I don't know. I've just been watching Yu Yu Hakusho. A couple days ago, I decided to watch WrestleMania from 2 years ago, which the first hour and a half still holds up very, very well.
Which one's that one?
That's 34, right? That's 34. So that had Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, The Miz opening the show.
Yeah.
Also featured Charlotte versus Asuka. Also featured Ronda and Kurt versus Triple H and Stephanie. I don't think WrestleMania could have came out with 3 bigger first matches than that, because after that the card drops off.
I think I like that was Taker Roman. I think I watched that main event a couple weeks ago, which is a lot better than I remembered it being. I didn't think it was that terrible on the second watch.
It also has, I believe, Brock Goldberg on that,
fun match,
which I still haven't gotten to, and a couple other things here. I'm taking my time with that. It's a 5-hour WrestleMania. I think this year we won't have to worry about that at all. This year, I don't know if you'll even make it 5 hours through this entire show of just sadness of empty people, wrestling in an empty arena. But first, I mean, quite honestly, the most important thing that we have to talk about this week is the WrestleMania news that we all waited for, especially last week. We were waiting on what was going to happen with the WrestleMania news. We're going to see if the mayor of Tampa was going to do anything about it. We were going to see if Vince McMahon was going to say anything about it. We were kind of like waiting. It was like, are they really not about to cancel WrestleMania? Like, is it really about
it was pretty confusing. There's so many reports back and forth about it. Some people reported that it was because of an insurance issue, which I do believe is probably the case. A lot of people were trying to, basically say, Vince is doing this to screw over the indies, which I'm pretty sure they're not even thinking about. I'm 100% sure they're not thinking about the indies at this point. A lot of indies.
Are they ever for any WrestleMania?
Absolutely not. I mean, indies low key. That's, Mania weekend is where they get most of their bread, but also Mania weekend is where they kind of, obviously they tailgate or piggyback off of the festivities there to their own, to their own benefit. And I don't think they should, quite honestly. And I don't think it's unfair to say that, but I also don't think it's unfair to say like, hey, like, this is their biggest payday of the year, and maybe there has to be different ways that they can go about this and in the future. But it does suck that a lot of them are going to be closed. But like placing the blame primarily on Vince not announcing anything is too different.
To me, if you have your own separate business and you're waiting on someone, I'm about to get in my real Dame Dash mode right here. If you're waiting for another man,
what kind of man?
Waiting for someone else who runs a completely different business than you in order to make decisions about your business, and it really kind of shows where your priorities lie and how you're going to do this. Now, like we said before, yes. It's an unfortunate situation for the entire sort of pro wrestling community. WrestleMania weekend itself has evolved to just beyond WWE, and WWE does enough stuff between the Hall of Fame, between NXT, between Access, between all these other things that are now canceled. Between a whole bunch of other. Go ahead.
Yeah, like they do so much, and I think they're not thinking about Bloodsport or George Janela Spring Break or anything like that.
But those are great events to have during that weekend, right? Like these are like, I think just the entire experience overall in terms of WrestleMania, what it's in terms of being able to be exposed for independent wrestling, and then you have whatever AEW is doing, Blood Guts and whatever. And all these other things. So you're exposed to a lot of different wrestling. There's a lot of activities. There's a lot of things to kind of keep you busy, even if you don't want to go to the Hall of Fame ceremony, which quite honestly, at this point, you couldn't pay me to go there. But just for how long it is, and how long it is. But you have a ton of different options. There's ROH, there's, GCW, there's everywhere, every sort of major promotion that you can think of is emanating from there. And like you said, I think it's, unfair that people are blaming the WWE for the lack of, for something that's beyond their control. It wasn't Vince McMahon who just said, you know what? Nah, it's just, this is a global pandemic. This is something that just affected the entire world.
And I'm pretty sure, like, you know, I mean, because WrestleMania was the last holdout. Obviously, Coachella was canceled literally as we were recording last week. A lot of, you know, NBA was literally canceled Friday, I believe.
It was canceled way before that.
Was it before we recorded?
I think by the time
it was like Thursday
would come out, it was like Wednesday or Thursday. It was definitely like Wednesday or something. Because I remember specifically it was that game. Actually, it might have been Tuesday. I remember asking ourselves, "What the hell is Jeff going to do?"
I don't know. But they all got canceled within, you know, a week, and WrestleMania was the last holdout. It held out literally until the last minute of Monday. You know, a lot of people saying, you know, that's screwing over foreign, you know, international travelers, which I'm like, guys, they were never coming over here anyway. Like at the end of the day.
Yeah, at this point, you couldn't come over. To be honest with you, yeah, at this point, even if WrestleMania was still going on, you would have never made it over there.
Yeah, like they literally cut travel. Like everything has been banned and stuff like that. Like, I think that if you actually thought they were still going to put the show on, I think that's kind of dense in a lot of ways. Like, because I knew that I had canceled the MVP already.
Yeah, in the capacity that they were going to actually do it as. And I think this kind of transitions the conversation into the actual WrestleMania now, what it is, right? Because WrestleMania will now be airing live from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando. It is completely new territory for an event. When you think of WrestleMania, you think of just the magnitude of it all, the pomp, the circumstance, the flashiness, the pyro, the moments, the crowd, everything. I mean, I think WWE has done a great thing over the last 15 years of getting WrestleMania back into these large stadiums. And not even just WrestleMania, like Royal Rumbles and all this other stuff, getting them, packing them, being able to build a business model enough where enough fans are attracted to be able to fill up these actual stadiums. And, you know, it's going to be quite a change because it's now airing from the Performance Center. I want to ask you personally, what do you think? Because I've seen a lot of people, I mean, in my opinion, if you're asking me, WWE could have canceled the show, people would have complained. WWE keeps the show going on, they're going to complain. Mm-hmm. So to me, it kind of really means nothing in terms of the public opinion on it, because I'm fine with whatever the show is. I think, to be honest with you, I usually think these shows end up better than anyone usually expects.
Or admits.
Right. Even with that, I think it's more so like, I've, seen a lot of like kind of, I don't know, television with spoilers, right?
Yeah.
I'll take The Challenge, for instance. The Challenge are spoilers. Blah, blah, blah. I've read them. Don't even worry about it. I'm not going to spoil it. But from reading those spoilers, everyone usually anticipates, or even the casting of the show, everyone anticipates like, oh, the show's going to suck because it's A, B, C in the third. And then you kind of have to remember yourself, oh, shit, this is WWE. Like, step back for an instant and figure how many times they've delivered when by all means that they shouldn't have. How many situations they've done, and then they've managed to put themselves in a situation where they can actually put on a half decent show. Yeah. But I want to ask you, in terms of this, what do you think about them actually continuing to do the show? Do you feel like it is compromising kind of these moral ethics of maybe it would be better off being postponed so these people can be with their families, or maybe it should be postponed so people can actually attend the event? What do you say, especially as someone who bought WrestleMania tickets?
It's a bummer. I'm not gonna lie. Me, Mark, and Cyrus, and Xavier, and Tim, and a lot of people that I know are super bummed about this. I'm not gonna lie. This was something I was really excited to go to, and I feel a lot of ways about it. I do agree. Like, there's no way that anything that they did would have been acceptable to certain people. I'm seeing people say, it's just not WrestleMania in the Performance Center. It's just not this. It's just not that. It's the spectacle. It's all of this. It's like, what do you want them? I even saw somebody. I've seen people saying like they're not doing this for us. They're doing it for money. And it's like, well, they just lost 80,000, 77,000, ticket sales. Literally within 24 hours. Like, I think there's on one end, it's trying to make sure that they kind of fulfill advertising, because Snickers is still promoting this show, and they want to get people paid. And I'm not privy to the way that these the performers are getting paid, but I would imagine that if they do show up, they will get paid. And they're not gonna. I've heard reports saying that they're not gonna knock you if you decide not to go. Right. So I think the Performance Center, honestly, is one of the biggest investments they've ever made, and it's actually coming true. If it does come true here, this is going to be more of kind of like Triple H saying, "I knew we needed to do this and prepare for something like this." This is their wrestling bunker. This is where they can do. This is where everything is built for them. I've been to the PC. This is literally a place that is from top to bottom built for things like this, or to prepare you for things like this. It can happen. We've seen it happen on the shows. How they switched up everything. Like, they could do NXT there and have it look like NXT, right? Like they did it there last week.
Right.
So I'm not going to say that I don't think it's possible. I'm not going to say I'm not going to think that it's Mania. I think that they could really, with the card they have now, this is a really strong Mania card to me. And I think they could absolutely still, turn it up in 2 weeks when they decide to do it, or if they decide to do it. But have you heard the rumors that they might not be doing it there?
I've heard the rumors of Madison Square Garden in June.
That ain't happening.
In terms of the rumors for that, I was like, what? In terms of like, y'all people believe this? Like, because any schmo could have brought that up. It doesn't even make sense, to be honest with you, in terms of their actual, and in terms of their actual how they do business and how they planned that out thus far. It doesn't even make sense to push back WrestleMania until June, even though, honestly, there's not a lot going on. They could probably push it back until any time before SummerSlam. But
then you hose all the people from Tampa who couldn't, get tickets. Then you force people who are coming out of a global pandemic to get tickets to Madison Square Garden.
Right.
I don't see it happening.
And we don't even know, quite honestly. We're still not even sure of all the facts regarding how everything is moving forward relating to this pandemic. Like, we're saying June, but like, will it really be June? Will it be July? Will it be August? Like, how long? The NBA is kind of like on its like, we're not sure what's going on. Every broadcast, I've watched more Adam Silver content than I usually do over the last week, and all of them is like, you don't know. We'll know when you guys know, you'll know. Yeah. But we know you guys will know, because they have, multi-million-dollar players just kind of sitting at home doing nothing and not even to practice, not to do anything. And it's even, with the WWE, for instance, I've seen a lot of things online that they should have canceled because it kind of presents a health risk for them. And I think just in general, I do agree partly with that, because it does present a health risk. But I think this is a health risk that a lot of people have willingly signed on for. Yeah. And those who aren't there, and they're keeping them away from this. You're watching all these kind of shows that they broadcasted over the last week, and it's not a lot of people. A lot of the shows filled up with recap stuff from past things. And
I'm also sure, I also heard, I believe I saw it on Fightful, that they're being screened every time they show up by medical.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, this is the biggest, at this point, for WWE programming, and we'll talk a little bit about Raw and SmackDown and however those shows were a little bit later in the show. But to me, this is at the point of let's just get to Mania, because
we got to see what happens after.
They're not doing house shows. They're not doing any appearances. They're not doing, I'm assuming they're not even, the overseas tour is cooked.
That's over.
Mania. Mm-hmm. So I
would be surprised if they returned overseas this year. Let's say we do, it does get stabilized in some way, shape, or form, and they're able to even do smaller events or very heavily, tarped off arenas.
The Saudi bag will put everybody in a bubble.
I mean, I doubt they do that either. I doubt anyone would go, because remember, you don't have to go to that. They're not making people go to that. I doubt that happens, and I'm pretty sure Saudi would understand that, because they have their own issues there with coronavirus as well. But I don't think they're going to go overseas in 2021. But again, we're speculating, and
we have no idea what's going on.
And even through all this speculation, like, maybe it sounds selfish, maybe it sounds like terrible to say, but it's like, with everything going on and all the things being shut down, I don't see how anyone could complain about there being literal first run live television happening in some way, shape, or form that is not a rerun or completely a rerun. Like, I got to hand it to WWE. I got to hand it to AEW. They are doing something that's unprecedented right now. You're bringing wrestling to us in a time where it is so confusing, and it is, you know, a real like panic crisis situation. And why are we still warring with each other about being too woke and who's doing better and who looks better? We're getting wrestling. Shut the fuck up.
That's kind of where my position is on this. Well, except minus the shut the fuck up. But
like who really cares about this ratings war anymore? Who cares about none of this matters?
None of this matters. I'm happy. I'm legitimately happy just to be able to watch anything refreshing over these last 2 weeks, because to me none of that matters. None of the conversation, none of the sort of, there's a little part of me that's worried about the ethics and kind of what and the safety of all these people that it is, but at this point you kind of want to lose yourself in the moment when it comes to this wrestling, and that's kind of why I'm looking forward to WrestleMania. I guarantee that WrestleMania ends up being better than everyone expects, because the idea of WrestleMania and the Performance Center and there being no fans, it's the biggest oxymoron that you can think of.
Yeah.
It is WrestleMania downsized to its smallest. It is every year WrestleMania breaks attendance records, and this year they break the attendance record of 0. So it's like they got the weekend doing with the theme song, and it's just like it's going to be kind of played all there. And it'll be interesting to see kind of how they do it. My idea, at least for it, is if you guys want to make a true spectacle of it, you film that shit beforehand, or you film. It's going to be interesting not having a live WrestleMania, but I think if you can manage to swap
cuts and everything,
if you're able to change it up, you're able to make it absorb it in a different way and have people be like, "Oh wow, this is awesome." But I think even if they do it the standard way that they do, I think it's going to be really good. I think these performers are going to work their ass off. What
if they shoot it like Lucha Underground?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm hoping for as well. I think the only thing that can sort of stop everything moving forward, which is what I think WWE is trying to prevent, is if someone manages to catch the virus who's on the show. And I think they've done since everything was announced, since I would say probably NXT last Wednesday, I don't think they've had WWE superstars too many crowded in the same room or in the same areas at once. For prolonged periods. I mean, you see it we have a tag match on Smackdown and maybe like a couple people there, but it's not something where a lot of people are really in the presence of one another for too long. Mm-hmm. And there's not a backstage, there's not a locker room, there's not anything where they're all mingling. And if they are, they're being tested. So this is just brand new orders for the WWE. And they continue to kind of like revolutionize and redefine the entertainment company and sports entertainment just in general.
Right. I have an option for you. I optioned this on Twitter earlier.
Sure.
What if it doesn't happen on the 5th? And they have to push it past June. What if they do Mania and SummerSlam the same weekend in Boston?
That would be tough.
Two different shows, different card. It would be like Wrestle Kingdom was in January, and I actually think it might actually even be better and have the opportunity to be a lot bigger of a spectacle if you load those cards up Saturday and Sunday. So you do SummerSlam Saturday, Sunday you do Mania proper. I mean, obviously we can't get those storylines back. I mean, if they can't get it done in on the 5th, there's a big opportunity, or there's a big chance that like we get no WWE programming. So what if they did those two? Maybe we do TakeOver on Wednesday and we do that on TV live. We on the USA, we do Hall of Fame Thursday, we do SmackDown Fridays that go home, do SummerSlam the next day, and then do Mania Sunday, and then Raw.
I think That would be insane.
I'd pull up to that.
I mean, I think any wrestling fan who's interested in the slightest would pull up for it, especially if they kind of want to retain the experience that they have from
Once in a lifetime
on Mania. I think it's interesting. I think it's something that WWE has at least kept in mind. I think they're exploring all options, is what I'm assuming. I would assume they're exploring all options. WWE tends to be this kind of like direction forward type of thing. They don't really go back. They don't really try to fix their mistakes. It's like, all right, on to the next. So it would be interesting if they decided to do that. I think it would be beyond thinking it's awesome. I'm not sure if it would actually get done, but I think it would be completely awesome if they did that.
It would be some next level. It would be some next level shit, right? We'll probably never see anything like that ever again.
Yeah, no, ever. You probably wouldn't. The city of Boston would owe WWE grand.
And I think that honestly, I think they'd be down. To be honest with you, I think they would definitely be down. Only thing is,
after considering how the economy is going, yeah, I'm sure they would be down.
Yeah.
It's I think it's a good idea. But Mania, once again, will be live from the Performance Center. I'm saying this, I'm thinking on this. I don't think it'll be as bad as all of you guys think it is. And also, I think all of you will tune in anyway because you have nothing else to do that day. And I think the matches will be what they are. And I'm glad we still have commentary. I'm glad we still have the thing. I think they'll manage to dress up the PC a little bit more. I mean, considering all that budget that's not going to be used for the actual stadium, they'll be able to dress it up a little bit more. And create an atmosphere and create an entire.
What if they do pyro in the?
Nah, you're bugging.
They'll burn that shit down.
They barely get smoke in there.
Speaking of Mania, have my Mania moment. I'm watching it right now.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about it.
You ready for this? We're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to New York. Actually, no. This isn't that one. We're gonna go back to Miami.
Okay.
Once in a lifetime. The Rock, John Cena. WrestleMania 28.
God.
This the build to this match was insane. He made The Rock cry.
It's I think that's legitimately the only moment when we talk about this entire feud that we mentioned how The Rock was kind of stammering over his words after John Cena tripped him up by going off script and and talking about how he wrote on his hand his promos and all this other stuff. I haven't seen The Rock's hand since we're cutting the promo, to be honest with you.
The hatred between these guys, I think it was shoot hate too.
No, it was definitely genuine hate. I think it was definitely a genuine, and it's crazy how they are now because essentially John Cena now sees everything from Rock's perspective, considering how his stars aligned, and just he was like, "Oh, I get it. Oh, I understand."
Also, big bummer for Cena because Fast 9 got moved last week, and he's in it, and The Rock is also in that franchise. So it's full circle here.
Full circle. In terms of this entire thing and getting here, John Cena, WWE champion, The Rock, they did a little Survivor Series dance, the previous year before getting into this match.
Never before, never again. I think that was the tagline.
So when you hold this up to this kind of like this cross-generational battle, when you stand it up to the other ones, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan is immediately the one that comes to mind. And eventually we're going to have Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. What to you, was this did this live up to the expectations that you have, or did you have really any expectations moving forward when it came to these two?
At the time, I was very
at the
upset.
time.
I was very upset at this match. I mean, I think everyone was. We wanted Punk to be there. Mm-hmm. We wanted Punk.
I mean, I was indifferent. I love The Rock, so it's
yeah. But we people thought it was going to be a triple threat. We all wanted Punk to be to have his Mania moment, and I think we felt as though that was stolen from him. We had gotten the Miz literally the year before, and a lot of people weren't happy about that. I'm not saying it was you, Meelz, but a lot of people were upset about that. So I knew that this was just going to stink. I was not with, I think a lot of the stuff when The Rock came back, like the promos were not getting over very well. I think he had gotten booed on one of them one week. They were just getting tired of him. They were getting tired of him. And I think people were getting tired of that character not working anymore, which is crazy because, it's crazy because the world where it is now was not like it was then, and Rock was just as problematic, and people were getting tired of it then. And I think that's always a funny thing to think about.
Where he cuts that promo in front of, what is it, the Boston Lake or wherever the hell it is.
Yeah.
Where he's like, you got these, your little stupid Fruity Pebble, your little Wonder Woman things, and like all types of other stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think people, especially considering how we were coming out of that era, I mean, we were long past that kind of, comedy or shtick from the, from our wrestlers at least.
But then it's funny because the Cena actually turned it down that year and said, you know what, I'm gonna be just serious and I'm gonna cut his ass for 4 months.
Because I think honestly that's the where people were at that time. I think we're so far removed, and it kind of showed how at that time you could even argue that The Rock was kind of a relic of the past in a sense, because he was leaning on a lot of his old shtick in terms of like calling people popcorn farts and, all these other things, and calling them his Fruity Pebble, blah, blah, blah. And eventually John Cena gets a Fruity Pebble endorsement.
That was a boss move by Cena, though. That was some boss shit. Cena got his agent. He got his agent on the phone immediately. He was like, you know what, man? I'm playing chess, not checkers. You feel me?
It was kind of, The Rock was, I think he really had to that first part of the year. Well, this was actually this feud went on through 3 different WrestleManias, kind of in a sense. But in this sort of phase of this feud, he really kind of had to realize that maybe you can't just lean on being The Rock. And I think that's always kind of been, if there was any kind of kryptonite that he is, it's his own hubris in terms of I'm The Rock. So when I say this, people are going to laugh.
Yeah, and he was saying that. Let's get this trending. That was his thing. Let's get this trending.
Boots to asses, all this other stuff like that. And I think he didn't quite realize until maybe it was WrestleMania 29 that in kind of the era that it is, that maybe we need to. Yeah, actually, I don't even think he realized until WrestleMania.
No, he didn't realize it until Royal Rumble when they were booing Roman, and he came out and he was like, "Oh, what have I stepped into here?" That's when he realized it, because I think he also felt as though beating Punk was going to get him over, and that was just universal hate when he beat Punk for the title.
Right.
That was a better match to me than this match I'm watching right now, which I feel as though was a very 90s match.
To me, it was a lot. It was very bouldery. It was these very large guys who are athletic to at some point, but not
stylistically. They're stylistically oil and water.
Yeah, 100%. And it's weird because they're kind of similar in a sense, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of similar in these great athletes that are able to do these amazing things. But in terms of their styles, it's really kind of they're kind of one and the same, but they don't complement each other.
Right.
Things about The Rock's greatest matches, he's always had greater matches against these technicians who can kind of clash with his style. The Kurt Angles and the Stone Cold Steve Austins and the Triple H's. And John Cena has the same. You have Edge, you have Punk, you have Angle, and all these other things like that. But you never really see them. It was like Cena was facing a mirror image of himself. And that's what kind of, to me, let me down considering the matches. And also, it went long. This isn't a short match. They had false finishes. I think
It's like a 40-minute match with entrances.
I mean, John Cena couldn't take a rock bottom properly. He always jumped before the Rock jumped, and
I think that was on purpose. I think he was really petty, and I think in a lot of ways, like, you know, we learned that the Rock is very much a giving participant as far as like putting people over, and I don't think he would have ever had an issue with putting Cena over, and in fact he didn't, because he put him over that next year. But I think Cena was in his bag. I think he was very much like, I run this, and this is my place now, and I got to prove it by having a match, but also showing him up.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think he really wanted to determine, like you said, like, this is his place, this is his, and it's really interesting, kind of like the actual feud that went on between these two. And I would say, I don't know if there's anyone who's covered it kind of well from the standpoint of the media, in terms of like, I mean, we've always had the rumors, we always had I think just the biggest point in it, as we've both, you know, made fun of for so much, it was the writing on the hand thing. Yeah.
But what about the behind the scenes stuff? I think it was very contentious, and you know, I would really just love to know what it was like in the locker room. Like, I would love a story on this, because like, I'm looking at the match now, they're literally calling spots, like opposing spots as they're wrestling, and we both know that these two guys are like, they're spot callers. Shout out to Cyrus, but you know, it is very much a disjointed match, very much so, and I think that, you know, the crowd's into it, but I think that in the end, you know, this match did more for Cena's storyline of redemption that year than anything else.
Do you feel like, I compare this match to Rock Hogan in a sense, and they're kind of like two different worlds of matches. And for some reason, like, you could say Hulk Hogan is like a half the athlete of John Cena, but I think he got more out of everything in his match than how they did. Do you think it was because of that kind of relationship, or maybe they didn't trust one another, or maybe they didn't really, you know, I guess trust one another is probably the best thing, that kind of produced how that match ended up being, as opposed to the WrestleMania 18 match, which I think still stands as one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time?
Well, I mean, clearly Hogan was again a willing participant, and allowing Rock to go over and look good. I think this match is just literally these two dudes trying to like outdo each other. And yeah, like, there's this spot in the beginning of this match where Cena does a snapmare and Rock lands right on his head, because Cena was just literally on Ultimate Warrior speed, trying to like speed through the sequence. And the Rock bottom, that just happened here. I just saw it. Like, it looked like it was a sidewalk slam, because Cena just jumped too early. It looked terrible. Like, there was a lot of things that looked terrible here. I think the only thing that actually works for me, and we're far away, you know, from seeing this in the match that I'm watching right now, is the storyline of Cena's hubris getting to him, and that's what causes him to lose the match. But man, I just think that it was one of the biggest disappointments. I think the match the next year was like, I've seen some people say it was worse. What were your feelings on the match they had the next year?
It was legitimately the same to me. I had no feelings. I thought, why are we doing this again? In my opinion, it's not that John Cena couldn't have a better match, but I don't think he could have a better match against The Rock. I think The Rock, I think in general, he's kind of set in terms of the type of act that he is. He's very in terms of very rigid on terms of like, okay, this is what I do. This is what The Rock doesn't do. Like, we're not taking, I'm not taking a plancha from the outside. Like, we're just not doing that. The Rock doesn't do that. The Rock steps out the way and, flashes an eyebrow. So there were just certain things that he won't do. I honestly don't think he could have had a better match against The Rock. And then it didn't help that The Rock tore his abdomen 13 seconds into the match.
He was too big. He was way too big that next year. Way too big.
And I think that's
he wasn't moving right.
Nah. I think that's why kind of his recent matches haven't really worked. And I know eventually in the future, he was supposed to have this big WrestleMania match against Triple H. I thought that probably would have been really good.
And that's because old man H is a much better storyteller and wrestler than he was. Oh my God. Cena did the top rope. I'm sorry, but he did the top rope leg drop and landed right on Rock's like shoulders and like his neck. Like, come on. There's no trust there.
What star are we talking about here? No. But in terms of like a Rock Triple H encounter, like I thought I think Triple H at this point, now that he's not completely into it, now that he has no personal stakes in terms of winning or losing, he's more so giving now and kind of understands it's like, okay, to make the best match, I know I have to give myself a lot in this match, even if the other person won't. Right. And I think that's why it would be a better match.
We have one very crucial update before we continue on with the show. That is our Mark Madness finals. What's going on with Mark Madness, man?
I wish someone could do the NFL on Fox theme song under it and like. But you know what? We'll do what we can. We have the Mark Madness semifinals. First of all, we just had an entire large week prior where we crowned a bunch of new stuff in the interim. First of all, Becky versus Asuka didn't go that well for Becky because Asuka completely slayed Becky. Then we had Bliss versus Banks. Once again, Banks comes out the winner to the surprise of no one. It's between Asuka and Sasha Banks. Asuka manages to handedly, I won't say handedly, let's not give it too much thing, 62% to 37%. Asuka defeats Sasha Banks. She's going to the finals of this Queen of the Ring Mark Madness. The Empress, I mean, she's just dominating as she should. On the other side of things, we had Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, to the surprise of no one who listens to this show, or at least to us who know the listeners of this show. Bianca Belair won that easy. Io Shirai stops the reign of Candice LeRae.
Thank God.
And it's Io Shirai and Bianca Belair in the semifinals. Now, this one was tight. This one was incredibly tight. I will say this was a 1% margin that separated these two ladies in terms of who walks out with the victor on this. But going to the finals, representing the NXT side, Io Shirai. Mm-hmm. Io Shirai versus Asuka will be the finals for Queen in the Ring. The winner will be decided this Friday. The poll goes up as soon as you're listening to this episode. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you put in a vote between Asuka and Io Shirai. They're both incredibly talented. They both, who would have thought that they would have made it this far? You know what I'm saying?
I honestly thought it was going to be Sasha Sasha and Io or something of that combination, but hey, Io and Asuka is actually a match that I want to see, and if things continue happening the way that they are within the way they're doing WWE now, like we could possibly see that match happen.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be interesting to say the least. But that's Mark Madness. We'll have it. It'll be after it'll take place. We'll have the results next week. But by the end of this week, you should know who's the Queen of the Ring when it comes to Mark Madness.
But before we continue on with the show, we have to let you guys know that this episode of the A Show is sponsored by Podcorn. Now, Podcorn is a marketplace connecting podcasters to amazing podcast sponsorship opportunities, such as host-read ads, interview segments, topical discussions, and more. With Podcorn, there is no middleman. Podcasters of all shapes, sizes can browse and choose opportunities right on the platform, set their own rates, and collaborate with brands directly without any exclusivities. We made an account, we signed up, and almost immediately we were connected with brands who wanted to provide sponsorship opportunities straight to us. So thank you to Podcorn for sponsoring this episode of The A Show, and make sure you start exploring sponsorship opportunities and monetizing your podcast by signing on at podcorn.com/podcasters. Now, we're going to go right back into the show with our show reviews of Smackdown and Raw, two very different shows. And not even just in terms of the location. Of course, they both emanated from the Performance Center last week and this week, but also in terms of really just like the production, the camera work, Whereas with SmackDown, you could tell it was kind of like put together in the last second, the last minute.
Because they looked like they didn't really know what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where Triple H was doing commentary, then he left, then he came back.
He was like, oh, they're going to have a slew of revolving door of commentators. And then after the break, Triple H is like, guess I'm back.
Yeah, and then with Raw, they kind of had it a lot more planned out, because obviously they had a whole weekend to plan this out. They knew where they were going to be. Obviously, SmackDown was supposed to be in Detroit on last Friday, and they had to, at the last minute, go straight to Orlando, which I'm pretty sure was a tough day of travel for a lot of them. But with SmackDown,
unless you live in Orlando, I guess.
Yeah, which a lot of them do. I had forgotten that Cena actually lives in Tampa. So that must have been very easy for him to just drive down or get driven down. And
he probably got the PJ. Vince McMahon picked him up on the way.
that would literally be a 2-minute flight. There's no way he did that. I'm pretty sure Cena
he had to. Listen, we got a pandemic out here. No way I'm driving down the street.
It's not a zombie apocalypse.
I'm not paying no damn toll if I'm John Cena. What the hell are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure Cena probably drove, but
they got the jet fuel. They could pick him up.
I think that, I'm sorry, but before you start, I want to say that SmackDown probably has one of my favorite promos probably of the year on that as well.
First of all, in terms of SmackDown, it reminded me how kind of bad Triple H is at commentating, but also how, I guess, his kind of very light mood can kind of take a circumstance that they're in right now and kind of make it fun. Yeah. Because I was quickly reminded, like, he didn't say anything during the color commentary at all. It was like all Michael Cole at some points, because he just didn't know what to say. And it kind of reminded me of, have you ever heard that commentary line he had back in the day of like, I'm by a lot of things. And,
oh, yeah.
And he realized that he just like, whoa, okay, I'm never doing that again. But no, SmackDown to me, I mean, it's a little bit of a shift in terms of like actually seeing it, and like most of the show was the men's tag team elimination chamber. But, you know, it had a lot of interesting kind of things, and I think probably the most riveting sort of piece of it was the closing segment between John Cena and Bray Wyatt.
Yes. I thought that, well, I mean, before we even get to that, like the Roman Reigns promo as well was really good, and I think Roman works very well in these situations where it's just him one-on-one. There's no crowd that, you know, you really hear his words. But the John Cena Bray Wyatt promo, have you seen it? It actually went viral over the weekend with a lot of people that just so happen to be watching that don't really watch wrestling. They, you know, it's been compared to like Shakespeare, like plays and stuff like that. And I thought it was really interesting that it caught on in that way. But
I definitely saw it. Yeah, I definitely saw it live. I thought it did a great, you know, for a match that kind of started off with it seemingly just a point of like Bray Wyatt loses the championship, let's shuffle him off to the next thing. They kind of did their best to kind of weave it all together to make it all make sense.
Yeah.
And, you know, incorporating that these two have faced off at WrestleMania before. John Cena's kind of approach before even Bray Wyatt kind of showed up to this entire thing, I thought it was great. And I thought just Bray Wyatt coming down and saying the things that he said also just made it better.
Yeah, and again, like, you know, I don't think that the issue with Bray has ever been the promos, right? It's always kind of been the in-ring stuff, and they finally given him a chance to cut a promo, you know, live, not in the fun house, and it worked. It really did work for me. Other interesting things, people were very big upset at Sasha and Bayley playing to the crowd. I don't think it was that big of a deal. Like, who cares?
I don't think it was a big of a deal, but it kind of seemed stupid. And I think it was stupid in a way that wasn't like the Miz and Morrison thing where they were playing to a crowd, but it was obviously in jest because of the circumstances that they knew were going on.
Can we say that for Sasha Bayley too, or it's like they might have literally got there?
No, you can't, because there was a sense of like, I think Miz and Morrison were fully aware, and you got that kind of across from their promo that they were fully aware of the situation that was going on, as opposed to Bayley and Sasha, where they were kind of more like, this is all we kind of know how to do. So, you know, who's gonna, boo us if you want, but there's no one here. And it's just like, bruh, like, who's going to boo you? Like, no one's booing you. Just walk over and do your thing. Just cut the promo. And
I think it got more self-aware as these shows went on. I think it's going to get more self-aware as the weeks go on.
Well, by the time we hit that Edge promo on Monday, that's when I think it was.
This is how you do it.
Was completely 100%. Everything was completely different.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. And again, before we even continue, we're not gonna grade these shows. At least I'm not gonna grade them very harshly.
Oh no.
They're ungradable. Like just the fact that they're happening is it is a luxury. I think as fans we tend to, and I'm guilty of this too. We get kind of entitled, and I think this is the one time where it's just like we have really no right to be entitled to anything. This is literally at the expense of these people that are just trying to put a show on for us. So I'm not going to grade it very harshly.
Yeah, we got Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro. We got, Jeff Hardy's return, albeit probably not in the best way that he wanted. We got the announcement that Rob Gronkowski may be coming to the WWE, and he will be on Smackdown this Friday.
Yeah.
It was an interesting set of things, and I think this trend is going to continue for at least 2 weeks. I mean,
it's going to be interesting what happens again after Mania. I don't know if they want to continue this the way that they're doing it now. I think they're waiting for cooler heads to prevail. And I mean, honestly, if I was to be, Lord willing, if I was to be optimistic about something like this, is that we only have to face this for one more month, right? And I think that would be the best case scenario where, they would actually go through and continue doing this. But I would just love to see them like do some freaky shit and just do some wild stuff production wise and cut vignettes and stuff like that. Like, this is a chance to really show why they got that $1 billion and change the way they do 100%.
Things. To me, the fact that they did this show is earning the $2 billion that they got between Raw and SmackDown on USA and Fox anyway.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that they're still airing, whereas other shows are not, is just completely. It just takes them to a completely new level. And I think once again, by the time you hit Monday Night Raw, the entire kind of tone and kind of like them getting accustomed to how they're producing these shows were completely different, starting from the Edge promo.
Yeah, the Edge promo. I mean, you want to get to Raw and talk about that. The Edge promo was great. I do believe we probably would have gotten the match announcement this week anyway, but it was announced that it's going to be a last man standing. Which, again, we've been saying this all show. If they really want to do this and tape this match before and have it be like a production and they're just wrestling all around the PC, that would be amazing to me, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And a chance to do kind of all these crazy spots that would probably need to be, especially when you have a place like the PC where everyone's not familiar with everything, it might be best to tape everything just so it comes out cleaner. So it's not like they're like edging through hallways and jumping through, glass pane windows for no particular reason. Like, I think it would be a best idea to do this all beforehand, but you know what? They're going to do whatever they want to do anyway. I thought Raw was interesting. They replayed the entire 2020 Royal Rumble
in 2 hours.
I know, whole 2 hours.
And I think I had watched it recently, so I did skip it. I watched Raw. I started watching Raw.
Lucky you.
I cleared Raw. I cleared Raw in about an hour because of I got to the promos of note, but that did take up everything to the 10 o'clock hour. And the last hour we did get all original programming. I wouldn't mind if the shows are like this.
How did you feel about old Mark Calloway?
Mark? I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny as hell. I thought it was really funny. I thought that it probably would have gone over a lot better with a crowd. But I think you tend to, it's 50-50 with that.
I think in a crowd they do this a lot more different, and I think you do get, to me, you fully get the dead man gimmick kind of deal, especially if you're with a crowd, to sort of awe and inspire and gauge that reaction from the crowd. But I think because there was no crowd, they kind of made a change in terms of doing this and having it be a lot more personal. A lot more in terms of the reaction was a lot more intimate. It was less of a let's get a reaction from the crowd and let's kind of make this kind of engaging visually for the audience that's watching at home, which is why I think you got Undertaker in the form that you got him with, the skull cap, the French braid.
As close as you're going to get to him in street clothes.
Yeah, looking like Steven Seagal, like out here, throwing haymakers at the OC. I thought that entire segment was tremendous, by the way. I think AJ Styles is a chicken shit heel. And I'm like, you better go out there and
back talking me. He said back talking me. I was like, I lost
Mike
it.
Air Jordan. I was like, could you be more Southern and white? Like, could you just be more Southern and white?
I did like Raw to me still maintains and is still like a really fun show, even with the restraints. I just think they have a better roster right now, and it's definitely proven. I really liked Andrade and Ray for what it was. I loved Asuka on commentary. Again, allowing her to speak in her native English is something I'm glad they keep allowing her to do, because it sets her apart from everybody else.
How did you feel about the whole 316 day? And listen, it was like the biggest build for anything that I've ever seen, because it's social media. It was on YouTube. It was on the website. They have visual clips. They went back to matches. They went back to everything in terms of building up for this moment, and ended up being Stone Cold hammered in a ring, talking shit with Byron Saxton.
For an escape, I don't mind Stone Cold doing his best Def Comedy Jam act. I don't mind it. He knew what it was, and I think there's no one better that I would put on in that spot for 10 minutes than him. Like, I actually felt like Becky didn't really do much for me on Monday, to be honest. Like,
she looked great.
She looked great. I just think the promo wasn't sweet to me.
Well, so now I brought up I've opened up this kind of door. It's funny that you bring Becky, because I was completely going to forget it. I asked this question on Twitter. Don't know if you actually seen it.
Didn't see it.
How has the thought ever ran through your head that Becky may retain at WrestleMania?
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
I brought it up before. I said
the tone of the promo seemed to shift, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I think that they're ready. They're hedging their bets on it being a big moment in front of people when she does lose. I think that there is extenuating circumstances that's going to stop that storyline. And I even brought it up. I said there's going to be somebody sneaky that's going to win. And I don't know why you guys are thinking that Brock and Becky aren't a shoo-in for retaining.
Yeah. Because to me, it doesn't. Yeah, in terms of the circumstances that we have going on right now, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to really kind of crown it, and you don't get the reaction, you don't get the moments, you don't get much of anything in this kind of like subdued WrestleMania atmosphere. I also think Becky's entire demeanor has changed. She's become a lot more self-aware in that promo on Monday, as opposed to like, I know Shayna Baszler is tough and I'm going to have a tough battle ahead of me. And I'm preparing for that. I thought that was a gradual shift from the promo, the previous Raw, where she seemed to be like, I'm ready to kick the shit out of this girl and nothing's going to stop me from kicking the shit out of her. So I do think this is also, I remember there was a point, I could be wrong. The first Ember Moon Shayna Baszler match, I believe Shayna Baszler lost, right?
Yes. She lost on some foolery.
Yeah, so I could 100% see that happening again, because I think you save it for a much bigger moment. I think you continue the sort of train of Shayna Baszler. You kind of get to establish Becky as this kind of like all-beating, this real champion of champions. She's having the run of her career right now. I don't think there's anything else that can sort of stand in her way.
And be honest, wouldn't it be a better story if she had that match at Mania, and obviously they're not going to have live events. She's probably not going to be wrestling for the next couple of months. You build the rematch to August, where Shayna's been waiting to get her moment to get a rematch, and then you make it better that way. And same for Drew McIntyre. They lose at Mania. If we're not going to have live events and we're not going to have regular Raws or Smackdowns, why not just do it that way? I think the only person that absolutely needs to win, just for the sake of just linearity, it has to be Roman, because they have to have a champion on that show.
Well, It depends if we have shows. At this point, you could keep it on Goldberg too, and just have him, just trot him out every second or every other couple weeks or so to have this thing. It's not like they're doing major shows throughout the rest of the week. So, but I think it's really up in the air. I think considering the circumstances that we're in with WrestleMania, it changes a lot, and I think people should expect that change as well in terms of how they're going to do the results for these matches, because we could have champions retain a little bit longer. I think we could have, moments that are a little bit different. I think everyone should look into this going into WrestleMania, because things are going to be completely different.
I think 7 days, like next episode might be different.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
let's see.
That's it.
I want to give two things. Congratulations to Davey Boy Smith and Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yes.
Newest inductees in WWE Hall of Fame, even though there will not be a Hall of Fame ceremony at WrestleMania weekend.
Whoa. Did you see the tweet from Georgia Smith? She said that she got a call and she spoke to WWE, and they said they're postponing it till a later date, and they're hoping to do it at SummerSlam, which would be appropriate, considering Davey's, that was like his, one of the best matches he's ever had. Right. So, I think that leads more credence to them doing some sort of WrestleMania-like thing at SummerSlam and, making up for it in that way. Because, again, we're not even getting a takeover in 2 weeks. So, like, there's going to be a lot of blow-offs and a lot of things that are just not going to happen. And we're in we're in uncharted waters. I've never seen anything like this just in entertainment. I've never seen anything like this in pro wrestling, period. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. So I'm not holding anything past anyone at this point.
You know how I know this is something we've never seen in our lifetime? I just got a text alert from my friend. Effective immediately, New York State is suspending debt collection.
Wow.
That's how I know we're in a different world right now.
Wow.
When debt collection has been suspended. So, yeah, we're going to cash out. And, that's all that we got. I think we went we provided a great entertaining show with the circumstances that we always do right now.
We always do. Shout out to everybody that listens and that are continuing to listen throughout this. We're not going to stop the content, even if there's no shows. We're going to find something to do. We know you guys love listening to the show, and we love doing the show. It's definitely an escape for me, and we're gonna keep it rolling. So until next week, thank you guys for listening to the show. For Meelz, I'm Justin. Please stay safe. Please stay in the house. And please keep watching wrestling. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Happy Rusev Day and wash your hands.